Start shaking your hands, please. Yeah. As you shake, just close your eyes. Just do that, please. Yeah. Start shaking, start shaking. Take it up. Don't take it sideways. You'll hit your partner then. Yeah. Take it up, 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 up. More, more, more. Bring it down. Bring it down. Keep on shaking. Now stop shaking. Keep your eyes closed. Keep your hands on your thighs, facing upwards. Take a couple of deep breaths. Deep, long breaths. Open your eyes when I'll ask you to do. Just listen to the instructions. As you open your eyes, your mind, your eyes, your nervous system will be exposed to a set of 30 words. I'll expose that for barely 20-30 seconds. Try and absorb as much as possible. Then followed by that, I'll also expose you to some images. We are doing it purposefully, and then you'll get to know maybe around 30-40 minutes what happens to these patterns when it goes inside your brain. You're not meant to write these down. You're not meant to draw this out. Okay? Just hold on, please. Yeah. Open your eyes, please. Memorize these words, whatever order you wish to. Okay, we'll go to images now. Very briefly, 10-15 seconds. Set of 5 images. Please don't draw them. Feel the difficulty, the level of stress in the mind between this and the previous image, what you felt easy, what you felt difficult. The last one. Okay, done. Now try and avoid the urge to write them down. It's very natural. It's typical of India, I would say. We have been very competitive all this while कि नहीं वो 30 बोला है तो मेरे को 28 याद होना ही चाहिए. This is not like that. Okay. Now I'll take you through some quick pointers about, and this is more of a theoretical framework, not too heavy. This is about how impressions are formed. So now we are just talking about how we develop these belief patterns. So the first are the things that we do in college. This is how you learn things. Hand, eye, sound, senses coordination, that's part one. Experiences with living beings, it could be you're not technically doing anything, you're sitting with your grandparents or with your parents or with your friends, and you are picking up things, and suddenly you realize you now know, how to do a new post or how to increase, some number of followers, like all that reference I'm referring about. Or what is the best hack for a better mileage on a bike. This can be anything like that. Then involuntary observation, this is where I will connect a little later on. So while you are doing something else is happening in your background. While we think we are focusing on, let's say, my lecture, but parallelly there are a lot of sounds are also coming. Can you sense that? And this is your ears are able to hear that, right? Now that is also going inside, and what this session is all about. Now this is where the story starts becoming a little subjective. That is where your lens of prejudice versus skepticism will start peeping in. And I'm okay, whatever your lens is, like just accept it for a while. So you inherit few things from parents, artist parents, both are playing, one is playing veena, one is tabla, there are 90% chances you believe the kid will also be into some kind of thing, right? And we call this prodigy, 3 saal mein tabla baja rahe hain. Have you heard these cases? Right? To some extent you have heard these cases, okay? Then subconscious learning inside mother's womb. Any idea by when the child movement starts? Which month? If it's an 8.5 month pregnancy or 9 month pregnancy, by when the movement of the child starts inside? 4 to 5 months. Till that time, it's only a biology. That is when the soul typically enters. Again, this is prejudice and skepticism. If you believe in that, it's okay. Else that's a time when movements start, and that's, we also hear, these days there are courses called as Garbh Sanskar, where you actually tune the child much before the child, comes out into the world, right? That's called as actually subconscious learning inside the mother's womb. Now, this is where it gets a little more difficult. Sometimes we also call this a theory as a prarabdha theory, the first one, the talk. So there is a word which is called as sanchit. It's not a person. Sanchit is the overall account of your good and bad deeds since the last 84 lakh rebirths. So one theory says you have taken 84 lakh rebirths before you got a human form. So whatever you have done as a butterfly, dog, XYZ, whatever, the good and the bad part, God gets documented. If you want to pick up anything of this, do buy a book called as Laws of the Spirit World by Khurshid Bhavnagri. There it speaks about how this documentation happens in the dream state, which is called as a deep sleep state. आपको पता होगा, like in this 8-hour sleep, there is one part where you are technically not in your body, right? That's a time when you go to the base station and does your documentation, right? So that's a documentation that you repay for in terms of 2 + 1 theory, the karmas of your past 2 life plus this life, that makes a 2 + 1 theory, right? So that's, again, this is subjective. I see a lot of serious faces, that's good actually. Okay. Then from these experiences, you also develop something called as cravings and aversions from previous lives. That I'll cover pretty much in the last 5 minutes, and that is what is Vipassana is all about. You actually bring them to your body and you settle those dues, right? I'll leave this part, original software. Now, experiences from non-sensory medium is what this session is mainly about. Because if we think that our being is formed by some conscious learning through an organized institution like this theory will possibly go and challenge that theory that I have picked up things which are much beyond my conscious way of learning. Okay? Now, start going deep inside. So, one way of learning is the way I am doing. You are the audience, I am talking, you understand English and Hindi both, I am presuming, and your mind is able to decipher what blah blah I am doing, correct? That is a direct way of communication via words and sound, right? In which your nervous system or your radio system is able to take that, catch that antenna and do that processing and then play it out to your brain, correct? There is other means where, let's say, no words are said. Is there a communication in this? Yes. So what's the communication on the left? It's what do you make out from the left man? Okay. And what about the right person? Okay, right. So that means your brain deciphered a visual stimuli which was reaching your brain, correct? So this, in a way, we are gradually now going towards something called as a non-sensory medium. All right. Now, we'll go a little more deeper in a very, very mystical story, and it's a true story. It happened in Mount Abu in one of the Brahma Kumari camps. And there was a diamond merchant from Surat who went ahead. Have you heard of Brahma Kumaris, Mount Abu? Thoda pata hai? Fantastic. So he was attending a camp, and it was a camp of all merchants. You know, these are, rich people. So one guy was constantly having this dream that he's roaming around in the streets of Surat, and he wants to hire a shanty. Ek jhuggi wo lena chahta hai, and he doesn't have 15,000 rupees with him. So he's very tensed. So he contacted the local teacher there, which they call as Didi. He said, Didi, is this my future? Is this what I came here for? So मैं meditation क्यों कर रहा हूँ? Fair point, right? And then Didi also got perturbed. She never knew what was happening. The same evening, luckily, the teacher happened to meet the cook of that group, the lady who's been cooking for last 4-5 days. She was really disturbed, and she was frying some puris, and she asked, क्या हुआ? तुम दुखी क्यों हो? Why are you so sad? So she said, Didi, my landlord, जहाँ मैं झुग्गी में रहती हूँ, he has asked me to vacate. I don't have a husband, and I need 15,000 rupees, and I'm not finding that. With that thought, she was cooking for 7 days, 4-5 days. You get some link there? So here is a human thought, possibly in some format going inside a food, and then this guy eating the food, and possibly that cell getting manifested in the same order. Of course, there is a question which comes, were all other participants also having the same dream? That is what we'll explore later on. So you are now slightly clear. We are now going gradually to the extrasensory way of communication, right? And it's very important for a designer, because tomorrow when you will design, you will carry these set of bunch of bags of biases with you, and your output will be biased by that bias, right? Would you like to really do that is a choice, which is for us as designers, because I'm also a designer, okay? Yeah. Another connected story, and this is also a true story. It happened in Japan. There were two villages who were at a war for the share of a water body. Happens in India as well. Very, very common. Correct? So Incidentally, one village on one side of the water body was deep into meditation. They used to practice a lot. So what they started doing was a smart trick. What they started doing was they started charging the water with the factors of love and compassion. And they said, "Dekhte hain kya hota hai." So 1 month passed, 2 months passed. Around 3rd month onwards, the argument started coming down. That means the people of the other villages, they stopped fighting. Intensity thoda niche aaya. And then this theory was further researched by Dr. Masaru Emoto, right? And from there came the concept of water crystal theory. So I did my Reiki in 2006. That is where I learned this theory. So if you see the patterns here, so water is one of the best mediums which records human emotions. I'll say that again. Water is one of the best mediums which record human emotions. So if you see water crystals, there are crystals which are before prayer and after prayer, right? Are you able to see that? Right? You see these beautiful shapes, and the water immediately responds to that. And depending on the type of water, if it's Gangotri water, it will retain its charge for about 3 months of time period. But if it's like regular tap water, and it's containing and recording those emotions, it takes it about for 5 to 6 days. Okay? So possibly it happened, they started charging the water body, the other person drank that, similar to the Brahma Kumari story, and they started having the feeling of love and compassion, and gradually thodi ladai down ho gaya. Okay? Fair point? Okay, let's move ahead. Now parallelly, any guesses why I'm showing all this to you? I see some sleepy faces, but that's okay, that's normal. Any guesses why are we talking about this? Till now, most of us consider this to be superstitions, correct? It just so happened as a chance encounter, I stumbled upon few things which I'm sharing with you. You pick it or not, it all belongs to you. That's a different thing. It all belongs to all of us, right? It's a scientific connect of thought, colors and all. So somebody called as, in 4th century, Bharata, who wrote the first treatise called Natya Shastra. Have you heard of Navarasa? Okay, these are the Navarasas. Right? So you find this very funny compilation of heavy emotions on the left hand side and lighter emotions on the right hand side. So how did these guys in 4th century knew that an emotion is associated with a certain color? That's a mystery. So if you pick up this book called Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield, you'll find very interesting account of monks who are able to see these colors. So there could be all possibilities that around 5,000 years ago, people had a facility in which, in a certain meditative state, they were able to see the aura of person and these colors coming out and find out if the person is black-blue in color, that means the person has an erotic thought process. That's what you see here. If it's in yellow in color or white in color, it's slightly on the better side of human emotions, right? Okay? Fair point? Let's move ahead. So what all we covered? We covered the Brahma Kumari, the story going into some situation going into food, into water. Then we saw the Reiki part where the water was charged and some dispute was settled. And now we are seeing that in 4th century somebody saw colors. Now, incidentally, when this was happening, there was a person called as Kirlian. Have you heard of that? There is a photography which got invented in 1784, and then there were regular advancements called as Kirlian photography, which through a digital camera, and of course there was not a digital camera, they could actually sense or photograph these images. So there is an organization in Delhi called as Reiki Healing Foundation. They created their own DAS, which is called as Digital Aura Scanner. It has the capacity to photograph the aura energy of that particular object. So what you see on the left hand side is a water which has a very anger quotient to it. Sorry, I'll go back. You see the Rodder Furious over there? So some colors are as is, and since it's a technology, it will take a while to develop, correct? Let's agree over there. But the same water, once actually given some positive charge, changed its colors. And you will find these references, and this is about a meditator who's, if you see the area of energy, which is being emanated. So I'll just go 2 examples over here. You would have heard from your elders a single line statement, हर किसी के हाथ का पानी नहीं पीना चाहिए, right? This comes from this theory, right? And Guru Nanak Dev Ji के लिए कहा जाता था कि when he used to go from one village to other, उनके आने की खबर दूसरे village को पहले ही लग जाती थी, right? Now amongst the living beings, if you have got pets, do pets have this tendency to figure out that somebody is about to come? That means due to their innocence, they are able to sense that aura. That means he exists to karta hai, right? We agree or not. Now again, few connected episodes. There are few relatives or elders who you always like to be with, right? Because you are a little low on energy, that person is a little high on energy, there is a regular osmotic relationship, lower state to higher state and higher state to lower state, you get drawn to those people. That is how we make friends, correct? And there are people who just come and sit next to you, feel like उठ के चले जाते हैं. You have this or no? So you can just very well make out what kind of energy charge they were possibly having. So you felt like that, right? That is where it's coming from the bottom up circuitry, which is what we got from our jungle ancestors. Okay, यहाँ तक ठीक है? Okay. So there's the same thing which happens when you're too low, too depressed. Would you like to go to a junkyard, or do you drive down some 200 kilometers to a far barren land, bike park करी, coffee पी, एक तंबू गाड़ा, रात को सोए और आ गए? What do? Do we go to a junkyard? No. This is one of the reasons there are few lands you get always attracted to, because they have been carrying. Incidentally, the word Devbhumi, the lands of Himachal, Uttarakhand, they always carried that charge. Always, always. That's why people, all hooligans, everybody who is very low on energy, slightly depressed, they get drawn to those places, right? If you're really sad, you will not go to Mumbai. That's where I live. Right? So from Mumbai, people go to Pune, because Pune, if you know, Pune hosted a lot of these sons. There are a lot of ashrams in Pune, a lot of this natural land. Okay? And the best, in fact, in Celestine prophecy, you'll find accounts of these monks who are talking and meditating next to a tree. And they are taking the energy from the tree, and that is why nature is called as Ma, right? Mother Nature, because she gives you pure energy all the time. Okay? Slightly in place, thoda sa neend bhaga aap logon ka. I'm grateful. Thank you. Okay. So now you may ask, and this normally, since the last 5 years, a lot of people have asked me this. How are you doing on time? Because I need to rush through a lot of things. How much we have consumed so far? Oh God, okay, I need to rush. Because there's a solution part which is very dear to me. I do know there will be 10% audience out here. Okay. Okay, so this is a practical example called as yogic farming, which is plants and vegetables grown through the factor of love. I'll keep the long story short. They experimented through 3 mediums: chemical farming, organic farming, and yogic farming. So in yogic farming, what they do is they devise the entire process, they broke it into various pieces. So the concept of seed, they talk to the seed for 2 months. एक बोरा है, उसके अंदर बीज रखे हुए हैं. They'll talk to the seed for 2 months that you have potential. You are the sweet little bean. You'll go out and serve my mother and everything. So much of love and compassion given to that seed. Then sapling phase, again there is a different phase of meditation. They talk to lizards, rodents. They request them not to bother this farmer's area, and they actually go away. So they don't use pesticides. No insecticides are used. Even urea is not used over there, because the growth is given like a mother to a, right? And beautifully, over a period of 3 years, what happened was the entire land where this was being practiced, and if you can see through, there are these universities which are already part of it. There are 4 more which I have not listed out here, right? They are actually practicing this with a cluster of about 28 villages in total, right? So the best thing which happened was their growth increased so much after 3rd year with less water, less input. So that means they are more in profitability. But when they tested it out in actual bazaar, they realized people were invariably drawn to the yogic farming products. Similar to that land case, if you are a little low, you'll go to a person who has a higher league of energy. Sounds okay? That means with less investment, they were growing better. And the byproduct of that was, in those 28 villages, the consumption of alcohol came down drastically, because around 4 or 5 hours they have to meditate various times of the day. अब वो करेगा क्या? उसको meditate ही करना है, right? So gradually body heal हुआ, ठीक है? Liquor का habit कम हुआ, okay? So here, and one anecdote out here, I just started testing this process for the first time in my life in Reliance, where 4, including me, there are 5 people who have become active meditators. We spoke to HR, and we are trying to test a mechanism where we are bringing meditation in the center of design practice and corporate governance to see what kind of wealth it attracts. So early results have been very promising. We are one of the most loved departments, and it's a very old industry called as refinery and marketing. Very, very positive. and we are supposed to work on about 150 odd products. We have just worked on 2 products, but the initial, I would say, the pat on the back is so overwhelming. We sometimes tend to think, because the diktat in my team is, particularly I have hired more girls, about 70% mother nature again. Right? That's the reason I knew about the secret mantra. So the instruction is, if you are upset, you will not work that day. That is a said thing. If you don't feel like, just leave early, I will mark your attendance. As a result, what happened, whatever good intentions they had, it went into that digital product, and the person who was using that, whether they know me or not, they know my name today. That ये काम उनके department से आया तो अच्छा होगा. So initial results have been really promising, but of course for a proper theory to formulate, I require about 1 more year. Hopefully by next year, we'll have some ROI factors also coming in to see. And why we are not following this, just because we are a product of a Western civilization. अगर यही Harvard ने किया, MIT ने किया, Kellogg's ने किया, तो some 3 spiritual theories के नाम से ये हमारे पास पहुँचेगा, with some wavelength calculation, right? With 5 P's also mixed in that, right? And you'll say, I got certified by Harvard over there. I'm not against that institute. I'm just simply saying, normally हम लोग अपना अच्छा वाला नहीं देखते हैं, and that is how we have been trained over the last 300 years. Okay, let's move ahead. Now the question is, do we really bother about these unseen emotions? I'll proceed ahead. Answer is yes, because we are 68% water, right? So we carry these impressions all the time without knowing why I'm getting angry or why I'm getting, X, Y, Z. Okay. Now these are few of the things you have known: a prayer room next to a kitchen, or the culture of prayers before food, right? Or not talking about a gory crime which has happened in Delhi or in Mumbai during the time of food. These are few of the reasons, because your energy is changing, in turn you're changing the energy of the entire room and the food, right? XYZ, and then coming ahead. Okay. This part I would request you, I'm just brushing upon, don't look up on your own. This was part of my research. It had very adverse effect on me. I'll just briefly inform about this. These are all games of the war world. People who are about acquisition, inquisitions, whatever you call them, right? Expansion, ये उनके खेल हैं, right? These researches never undertook. I just informed about the first 2. Cyranoids are the ones in which the nervous system channels are bypassed and given to someone else. These are cyranoids. So if I'm raising my arm and I put a plug, now the BMI, which is brain-machine interface developed by Elon Musk G, is already in place. So suppose you hack that channel, and that hack is, there are about, let's say, 80,000 implants or 40,000 implants done at different part of the brain, and I have access to that. If I am raising my brain, those 80,000 people will also be raising their hands at the same time. That is cyranoid. Synesthesia is a very tricky technique in which, suppose you want to taste butter chicken, but you don't want to have the calories of butter chicken. So you hear a sound which will, from one sense, it will deliver a message to the other sense. So hearing the sound, your mouth will start having a taste of a butter chicken. It's very cost effective, calorie efficient as well. That is called as synesthesia. Okay. Silent sound spectrum was used in the Iraq war. I again request you, I know अब बोल दिया तो आप देखोगे ही, but don't do that. At least tell your next door partner that I'm looking up for these topics, because they all carry subliminal energies when you're researching from them. And most of, because it has got published in a paper which I wrote in 2015 at NIT Calicut. So my family reported I went into a lot of aggression during this 1.5 months of research. So I request, because here I'm not talking about a blah blah knowledge which I haven't tested on my own. Whatever I'm speaking about is something which I have gone through in my own life over the last 47 years, right? So अगर वो parents कहते हैं ना वो plug में हाथ मत डालो 440 volts का झटका है. Of course we all do that. I don't know how many of you have done that. Actually put a small pin and then switched it on to actually feel, right? But suppose if it's not 440, it's 2000 volts, then it's a little difficult, right? Okay. So quick recap part is simply messages, feelings, belief patterns can transfer without our conscious knowledge. Water is one of the carriers. There's electrical wave frequencies which affect, they are being surrounded here. We are surrounded all the time, right? They affect us. Now, before I end this part, which is a flash image test, you say, if everything is happening so fast, why are we given a brain like that? So just to feel that, I'll show you an image, just to demonstrate the potential of the brain that we have inherited from our jungle ancestors. I'll just show it for 1 second, and then we'll have a quick 1-minute discussion on that. Fair game? Okay. What was there? Any idea? Okay, let's start from the top. अभी तो आप बोलोगे नहीं. Was it India or US? Okay, was it Kashmir or somewhere in UP? Okay, was it a day or night sequence? Okay, was it a regular urban sequence or slightly rural sequence? What was happening there? The man was wearing a helmet or no? Was it a like Vivek Oberoi, a very rich person, or someone from lower middle class? Like how many were there kids or adults on the bike? Okay, was it a Hayabusa or like regular Hero Honda? Okay, were the kids wearing all multiple colors or single color? Possibly single color. Was it a cityscape or a rural landscape? Landscape. Was it sky in the background and grass, or were there mountains? So if I ask 40 more questions, you will answer that in less than 1 second. That means an image came inside. It has such massive computing power. कुछ तो reason होगा नहीं हमको दिया हुआ है. And this I'm talking about 1 second. I'm not even talking about the last half an hour which I'm doing blah blah blah. तो बहुत कुछ चल रहा है अंदर, right? So इसका purpose क्या है? So let's go down why such powerful machinery has been given to us without our understanding, right? This is the reason. So we have two parts of the brain, limbic brain and other is in the top mind, we call this, the frontal neocortex. Limbic brain occupies 90% of our being, actually. We have inherited this from a jungle ancestor. And it's only focused on three things, food, threat and reproduction. आप इसके अगेंस्ट जाएंगे वो रिबेल करेगा. आपको भूख लगती है तो गुस्सा आता है, right? Reproduction, no guesses. I guess, of course, humanity has solved that problem, but with jungle ancestors, they used to typically beautify themselves, like one hathi and a hathni, or maybe, one this and this, and they will parade themselves, they will outshine other person. That is why the competition sense we have also inherited, right? And other part is quite clear, which is about the threat part. So I'll just expose you to something and we'll see some patterns of why we carry these, pangs of fear for certain species. Okay. What is this? It's a tiger. Okay. How many have actually faced this? Like day to day हम बाहर बैठे हैं lecture में एक tiger निकल के गया. Dog निकल के जाएगा हम ध्यान नहीं देते हैं, right? But ये आ गया तो थोड़ा सा आता है. But in this life, were we ever attacked even once face to face by a tiger? Answer is no. But we still have tiger dreams sometimes. A tiger वो गुजरात की सड़कों में घूमता है गिर जंगल का वो पूरा वीडियो वायरल हो जाता है. You have seen those, right? Dog घूम रहा है वो वीडियो वायरल नहीं होगा, right? So where did we inherit it? This is this millions of years of evolution where the species were attacked by tiger. We still carry that software. Is your Android has this bloatware? You have heard that, right? That is a bloatware we carry. We have the same things for spiders and for snakes as well. None of us have actually, been attacked. जो घर में बचपन में दिखता ही रहता था. नहीं. But still, we have this phobia for snakes. We got this default software because a lot of this is junk software and it's only for food, threat and reproduction. Okay? I'll show you one more image. What is this? So the recall for this image, was it same as the recall for the skin of the tiger? It's taking much longer because the data is not there in your brain. You were never attacked by this object. This is the object. None of you have a top impression of a water bottle because it never harmed us. That is why it never went into the millions of evolution of biology. Okay? Yeah. So brain trashes data which is not connected to the three factors. That's why हमको पढ़ाई करने में बहुत तकलीफ होता है because it's not a threat factor, right? It's not affecting neither the food. Yeah. Reproduction is one part which we all get carried कि अगर fail हो गए तो क्या होगा? फेल हो गए तो क्या होगा? अच्छा लड़का नहीं मिलेगा या लड़की नहीं मिलेगी. सुनते हैं पेरेंट्स से. दैट स्टेटमेंट इज अगेन कमिंग फ्रॉम द जंगल एंसेस्ट्री कि इफ देयर इज अ लूजर इन अ क्लैन ऑफ हाथी, व्हाट विल हैपन? विल ही गेट अ राइट टू मेट और नॉट? नो. दैट्स द सेम फियर वी गेट व्हेन वी लूज आईआईटी एंट्रेंस एग्जाम. ओके, नाउ write the number of words you can recollect and then we'll end this part of the session and we'll go to briefly about 10 minutes for the solution part. As much as you can remember, spellings are not required. जितने आपको याद आ रहे हैं, just write the words which you are able to remember. Once you are done with the words, and don't make, this is not a competition, just write them. I just need the numbers of count. Those who are done, move forward to drawing 2 images which you are able to recollect, which we also memorized. Okay, those who are done with, we don't have a white marker, okay, fine. Those who are done with words, what are the counts which are coming up? Anybody with a random hand? It's okay, if the first person, that the factor of food, threat and reproduction hit karega. वो loser का feeling आता है बोलते हुए. Yeah, number of 10, fantastic. 10, 9, okay. 5, fantastic. 5. 6, okay. Those who had a figure of 10, did they deploy any strategy to memorize it? What is that? Can you just say a little loud, maybe? Put them in a... Okay, fine. This is a common pattern, right? So the ones who have 1, 2, 5, they are the ones who are really attentive in the session. Because they actually got with the flow of the story. I'll explain the reason why abhi now. Okay, that's okay. Yeah. So the ones who normally have this competitive spirit, I'm not blaming you, huh? This is, please, it's not a one-on-one comment. They have numbers rising up to 18, 19 and sometimes 25. Because वो session सुनते ही नहीं है. उन्होंने बोला तो मैं छक्का मारेगा ही मारेगा. And throughout the session they're memorizing and I'll talk about that theory now. Okay? And have you done drawing the first 2 drawings that you're able to come across? Okay? What is the, can you describe that? What have you drawn? AT&T? One is AT&T, another? Okay, the W kind of, okay. See, if you, this is I think could be my 30th session, I don't remember well. Even if I do it with IITians or with the parliamentarians, the answer is same. That means there is something inherent about the calculation of the brain which it decides, because here we saw that brain trashes 99% of the data, right? Right? A lot of data. It does calculation close to 11 millions, the limbic brain per second, right? What it does, anything which is not relevant, वो अपने आप delete कर देता है. And that is what all happened with you, right? So, and in the words, how many of you heard Salman Khan in Dabangg? Okay. So that's called as pattern making and pattern breaking. If I had taken all Bollywood words, you would have had a difficulty depending on your nearest association with a certain word, which happens in the case of Nelson Norman अपनी study में कहा है, which is called a recognize and recall. It happens in 3 phases, how recently a memory chunk has been practiced. वो word फटाफट recall होता है. Okay? So this is the common one. So that means as designers, if you know how the inner brain works, you can make a pattern and also break a pattern. It's like you can actually force a person to look in a certain dimension or a direction. Okay. Thank you. We'll take a 5 minutes break. Then I'll talk about how to break the pattern. Those who are interested, please come. I'm okay with 1 person sitting in the class. I've done that in the past as well. Yeah. Thank you. You can take a break. So, next session is I have more. Okay, we'll get going. I have strict timelines. I respect the presence of other speakers as well. I also understand, I mean, it's quite a shock to me because normally your generation, they decide to stay out, right? So I'm happy that you are partly interested in this. Okay. So bit of a recap. Now I'm entering to something which is connected with all of us. So we spoke about the subliminal factors of energy transfer, transfer through water, transfer through thoughts. Now we talk about something which is called human to human equation. That is we all are surrounded with, right? So here in this part, don't feel guilty if you associate with one of the factors. I'll say that again, don't feel guilty, try and work out on that factor, okay? And believe me, there is a word which is called as I belong to you. India is my mother, we all are her children. You belong to me as much as I belong to you. So give me a shout, कोई session separately करना है, dissolution का इसको problem को solve कैसे करना है, just get in touch with your faculty and I'll be here, right? This is for the betterment of the country, what I'm doing, okay? Let's move ahead. Oh, sorry. Switch. Now we are moving to the part which is very sacred to me called eraser or erasing a particular impression, and it depending on circumstances it takes sometimes months, sometimes it gets done in few days only, but don't try hacks. Of course, any idea comes to your mind, please try and reach out to me. I know we are not that related, but I am here for you, okay? Now this is a true story which happened with me. So this is how most of this what you see here started. It was way back in 2008. I was fresh from IIT. 2006 I did my master's in design. I went back to Delhi and I was teaching in this institute for advertising. So I had given this assignment. You can read out here. It's an advertising communication design assignment. Brand is LIC. If you've heard of LIC, Life Insurance Corporation, lower middle income group, what you call as guards or drivers. They want to buy one room set or something like that for 20 lakh rupees. उनको loan देना है. उनके लिए ad बनानी है आपको, right? So I'll skip the gun now here. And it was a batch full of girl students, by the way, right? They had to come out with character sketch of who are the actors who will be acting in their film. I guess you guys might be doing something like this as well, where it will be animals, male, female, क्या परिवार होगा, बच्चे का नाम क्या होगा, wife क्या करती हैं, you know, husband क्या करते हैं, X, Y, Z. So what they came up with this. Mostly entire batch had a couple, working husband and a homemaker wife, right? Wife is fair skinned. They had to write down as well, right? Now, everything was fine. What struck me was something in the middle, which is this. From where this was coming. You even see today, you'll find traces of this, what I researched way back in 2008, still happening, right? So boy's name was Ishan or Aryan or Karthik. You'll never hear like Suresh, Ramesh, Vijay. I doubt if there is even one kid in the ad which has been named Vijay Dinanath Chauhan or whatever it is, right? I carry this weird name, right? Then I started studying this, and then I realized nobody told them that they need to have a male child. And this became such a big problem because a year later, I was working in my advertising campaign for one of the water purifiers. The client was based in Mumbai. I can't name the client, unfortunately. I am a girl fan. I have a girl daughter as well, right? So it's now, not then, okay? So in my communication for a campaign for a water purifier, I had put all visuals of a girl child. Everything, the 12 calendar, 12 pages, all girl child. They loved the calendar. Feedback came from Mumbai saying you replace everything with a boy child. Argument started, my director had to intervene. Then they sent me data for 3 states where they were present, which is Gujarat, Maharashtra. At least 2 of them. They had surveys covering mothers who wanted a boy as a first child. This was the start. This was similar to why I have to buy a 2 BHK, remember? मेरी नहीं औकात है, कईयों की नहीं होती है, नहीं ले सकते हो 2 BHK, वो 1 BHK लेंगे, नहीं तो बस में सोएंगे. That's okay. But from where all this was coming? Then I started studying all these ad patterns, and this is in a nutshell what I discovered. 87% of these ads had these images of this boy, with these names. Of course, in way back, I think this was in 2007, Tare Zameen Par came in. So Ishan word, if you remember, also came from there in the lexicon, right? All this was happening. None of these ads, barring few ads, had grandparents as part of the visual, and they affect our decision-making pattern. Did you notice in the ad, nobody spoke about the grandparents in the ad? It's only a couple. ये images आ कहाँ से रहे हैं? ये हमारे अपने समाज से आते हैं. right? And ये आप जाके join करेंगे and then you have to fight them as well. It's not easy to fight. They'll say they want a fair girl in the ad. Do you see any ad? In fact, look at Indigo Airlines, most airlines. I was very happy to see finally someone like me in Vistara today morning. It's very, very rare to find that. All this is coming from the same food, threat and reproduction. If they do something, thoda sales mein farak aayega, right? It's a shame, but it's a fact, right? Okay? Yeah. So this story started from there, right? Now we are talking about human to human. So suppose we have a coffee cup. I got a coffee cup. It was like about 98 degrees hot. I kept it in this room. Will it remain like that? No. But did I do anything to change its temperature? Answer is no. There is a natural thing which was happening. So this happens again. Even in case if you touch a cold, I would say can, the coldness reduced because a part of that has come to your hand. But did you do it deliberately? Answer is no. There is a natural phenomena of this concept called as energy exchange. Sometimes osmosis keh dete hain. That means energy tries to balance itself at some level, right? You can't stop that process, be it what. Okay? So in the case of humans, you have seen this one visual. We are full of these 9 set of emotions. Other person is also full of 9 set of emotion, right? They are coming not in contact with each other, but there is some distance apart. Okay? Right? They are not even looking at each other. And this is somewhat related to this concept of Sangat or a company. So what happens was, the aura energy of these people, they start communicating with each other and they'll try and reach some kind of a state. That means the good energy will start mixing into the bad one and the bad will start mixing into the good one. And this is what happens, actually. There are certain places where you feel drained out with people. And there are certain places you come back a little charged. That's why we go and meet the counselors. But try and find the life of those counselors whom we go and meet. Their life is absolutely miserable after 1 or 2 years of full-time counseling. They have to go into meditation. There is no other option. Because they consume so much of that, which is this part of the energy. Because the people who are coming for counseling, they're effectively coming there for that kind of energy. They're not going there because they're full of energy. Or they are full of joy and बहुत मजा आ रहा है जब काउंसलर से मिलके आते हैं उसका सर खाएंगे. We don't do like that. Okay? Clear? This is automatic energy transfer happening irrespective you know the person or not, and this happening in this room right now. Okay? The second is the line of sight. You look at somebody, the exchange starts happening. You shake hands. This is called as the brief limited contact. Typical to tap and pay. This is the Bluetooth transfer. You're just looking randomly at each other. So in most meditation camps, you'll find you're not permitted to look at the eyes of the other meditator. आपको नीचे देखना है, because वो energy transfer होगा नहीं तो. Okay? This part is where it gets a little more serious. It's called as deep level physical contact. I had no other graphic, तो मैंने ये डाला है. Please pardon me because I can't put the other graphic. Right? It's called as the fiber data transfer. Right? And hence, you'll find after marriage, you'll find often mothers of both parties commenting, मेरा लड़का शादी के बाद change हो गया है. Have you heard that? या मेरी बच्ची मेरी अपनी बच्ची नहीं रही. You will also hear that. What has nearly happened is, there has been a deep level impression transfer happening due to the communion, and the energy is trying to settle, and it takes about 4-5 years for a proper energy to settle. Okay? So what you are simply saying, suppose you married somebody who had a very hard karmic baggage, like वो past life में बहुत कांड वांड करके आया हुआ था. Now you carry that baggage on your body. Now your suffering will increase for some time and then it will try and settle. Correct? Problem doesn't end here. Problem happens in a situation which is on the left hand side. When we have equations with multiple, so I'm not talking about social setup. This is not about social dilemma. I'm simply saying here, download what you can dissolve. If you download too much of data from other people, there are likely chances you'll end up into a very miserable state where your mind won't know what the data downloaded, because what you are downloading effectively is this bunch of emotions. You don't have a narrative. It's not like you touch somebody, you immediately know, अरे तू ये कलिया वड़ा पाव खा के आया था. You can't do that. You have a resultant effect. Because human biology is so smart, it just stores the emotion, not the narrative. It's only in this life you have some narrative available. But with 2+1 ka theory mein, you don't have a narrative. You just get a factor. Now what happens there in this situation, if this side becomes way too hot, I would say, then biology starts stepping, and I'll talk about in the solution part. Is this part clear? The third is what you already know called as clairvoyance. You are in some state in America, somebody is in Singapore, you think about that person, uska phone aa jata hai. Do you have this thing happening? That means there is some connection which is there beyond. और उस connection में भी आपका data transfer हो रहा है. Right? Now comes the, I would say, slightly scary part. If we are constantly downloading data, we'll have something called as a confused software. You become a mix of Android, iOS, BlackBerry, XYZ, everything, where your apps will start crashing. That is when you go to a counselor. Okay? I'm not saying you are the bunch. Please, this is not the factor, right? The factor is not directed. I'm just simply narrating that's the reason why single marriage was kind of seen as a better thing. It's not about society. It was seen from the data perspective. We are only talking science here. Another part, excuse me, which you have heard from your parents, किसी के बारे में बुरा मत सोचो. सुना है? This is where it comes from. This I just read 15 days ago because things unfold in your life if you're on a certain path. If you think bad about somebody, that the bad part of that person data starts coming to my body. But if you think good about somebody, the good part of that data comes to my body. Physics is so beautiful. It's so simple. That's why we say most of the time have some name in your head. बोलते हैं ना भगवान का नाम करो, चाहे अल्लाह करो, चाहे जीसस करो, it doesn't matter. Right? But उसके बारे में बुरा मत सोचो because there is direct data transfer similar to what you saw in this visual. Okay? Now this is what makes your nature. You are nothing but a bunch of these emotions, and what actually makes is this one. Right? I'll briefly touch upon this topic called as Swabhav. Swabhav is your innate nature, which is a combination of all these emotions, and Swadharma is your nature of work. So there are people who inherently are very compassionate. If they join army, there is a dissonance. Similarly, if there are very aggressive people, they become surgeons. Thoda sa problem hai. You've seen Munna Bhai? They will not hold the scalpel like this. They will hold it like this. Right? That is where the problem happens. So there are camps in the country who helps you define these factors, right? This topic is beautifully covered in this trilogy series books. And it says society, institutions, family fail because they don't know their Swabhav and they land up into a wrong Swadharma, right? So if you start segregating this properly, even maybe in your batch, you'll suddenly find people blossoming. So aggressive people possibly taking up projects which are connected around, let's say, bikers, adventure sports. It kind of matches with their personality and you will be in a state of joy. Okay. Now, the problem part, in the case of humans, we can't delete a data, but if you have got a bug in your system, you can delete that. That much you know, right? But it's a slightly false theory. So people, our yesteryear people way back 5,000 and 2005 years ago, that is when, techniques got invented. These are the two techniques and this is my last slide, right? So what now we have is, we have this set of emotions. They are stored effectively in, let's only talk about two kind of emotions. We have anger, we have, let's say, grief, and we have guilt. 2-3 kind. Good or bad emotion? Bad emotion. They are energy sappers. They require a lot of maintenance. So these kind of emotions, they get stocked in our atom, that is called a cell memory. And the body does beautiful segregation. वो body में एक part में इसको इकट्ठा करना चालू कर देती है. Your brain is not the only center for memory, mind it. Every part of the body is utilized for memory. So suppose the bad data is getting stocked up in one area. There is no way you can delete that. What it does, anytime new anger comes, उसका memory वो उधर फेंक देता है. Similarly, grief का इधर चला गया, guilt का उधर चला गया. They keep on piling. It's like a garbage in your kitchen, and then it starts fuming, giving fumes. Good fumes or fragrance? They'll be really bad fumes. When the pressure becomes too much for the body to bear, there is an outburst. That is what we call as anger or crying, because body will release कर रही है, right? In later stages, if it's become too much for the body, right, the rotten part becomes so rotten, that part is called as cancer. Right? And if a certain body part or a certain, I would say, data drive has too many of these grief, anger, guilt, criticism all stocked up, or it requires a lot of energy to maintain, body switches off one part of the body to retain the other part of body. That phenomenon is called as paralysis. And if it's way too overbearing, it's called as a stroke. कि अब ये अब maintenance के बाहर है. Are you able to catch with me? Now comes the solution part. I'll keep this. I think it's not required now. Are you interested in solution or no? Okay, thoda, chalo. That's my fun part. Okay, so Guruji, Gurudev, Ravi Shankar sir, he went back to this because he knew about the technique, other techniques, and they are very hard techniques. Like Vipassana is a very hard technique. I have done Vipassana as well, right? And I received a Siddhi as well, but I'll talk about the easy part. So Sudarshan Kriya was devised. In Sudarshan Kriya, in 45 minutes, the core Kriya, your body is sent into a panic mode. Please listen very carefully. Extreme panic mode, the kind of breathing assignments you do, is similar assignment which was also invented by another person called as Osho. I don't know if you've heard of that. That was called as catharsis. It was first invented in Pune. But catharsis is slightly anti-social. मतलब it doesn't look like the way you do things. आपको लगता है मैं ही नहीं कर पाऊंगा. It's not about having intercourse. It's not like that, right? वो एक अलग चीज़ पॉपुलर हो गई थी. So in Sudarshan Kriya, in 45 minutes, your body is sent into a dimension of extreme panic. In extreme panic, these atoms, anger, jealousy, they suddenly start feeling कि ये body मरने वाला है. This sharira is going to die. They come out of their room. Otherwise, they don't come out. They just send the fumes out. They stay there. There's no way you can delete. The moment they come out, the good cells who were the policemen of our body, who till now were there in the fire center or in the police station, they also come out saying, this is my sharira. I need to protect it. They pack these ugly guys in water molecules. I say that again. In water molecules, and they start getting flushed out of body. So this is in few situations. So suppose it's like you bought a property in Chandigarh. Outskirts में लिया कि retirement में रहेंगे. 30 साल पहले लिया. But due to whatever reason आप नहीं जा पाए. You could not even send a person to clean it. वो बंद रही property. Now after 30 years, you felt I have to go and stay. When you open the door of the property, what do you expect now? Dust, fumes, right? A lot of bad foul smell. This is what also happens in Sudarshan Kriya. If the body has a lot of toxicity, depending you had multiple partners or the previous karma is too bad, suddenly the body finds an avenue and through water, it will start flowing out. You may have loose motions. You may have diarrhea I've spoken about, vomiting. You may have excessive perspiration. This is through water medium. If the events of the past are so bad, you will certainly have a fever. But this is good because body is kind of now started cleaning. I understood the technique. It's a 3-stage pranayam. Over a period of 6 months, 3 months, gradually you will find people who are your enemies because you stored their data on your body. They suddenly are a little more calmer. Right? This I'm talking from experience over the last 2 years. This I'm not talking Hawami. Okay? So it's a very simple, it's a water-based technique where karmas are flushed out of body via water as a channel. Right? There are various other courses as well for intuition program and Sahaj Samadhi. Sahaj Samadhi, you get a beach mantra which you have in a state of meditation and deeply implant in your subconscious mind such that you get the right vibrations and the right, it's like ये stock लेना है ये नहीं लेना है आज ये class करनी नहीं करनी है ठीक है आज मुझे लग रहा है होने वाला है ये सब उधर से आता है फिर you leave your body, you're like a radio. You cleaned your antenna, which had a lot of garbage and junk, and then you started communicating with the higher power. I'm not naming any religion here, right? Is it clear? Right? So those who haven't tried, please do. If you have any factor which your parents have commented on, or you have discovered, it can be easily flushed out of your body. You just need to have patience. Vipassana on the other side is a different kind of a concept, where you merge your subconscious layer, lower layer and the conscious layer over a period of 10 days, which is the 10-day course. Gradually, जो lower body में जो karma जमा होता है, वो आपको पता चलता है. You recall that karma, आपको episode नहीं पता आपने क्या किया है. You bring that to one of the parts of the body. It could be your leg, anything. You may have extreme pain. You may have extreme itching happening, right? You may have extreme heating sensation to the tune of almost 100 degrees burning, but वो burn नहीं होता है. If you touch outside, it will be like normal. Right? You focus very carefully on that body part and then you burst it. That is Vipassana. Right? Second technique is slightly more difficult. First is easy because you don't feel that much of pain. Because that is why Vipassana is based on concept called as equilibrium or equanimity. Right? वो वहीं से word आपका तब आया because the amount of agony that you attract in your body. In fact, in one of the sessions, I had a lower body paralysis. But since I knew ये होता है, I was calm. I somehow managed to drive the car. It took 7 days to dissolve that piece जो मैंने download किया था अपनी body के अंदर. Very beautiful technique, not a problem, right? So you download, you dissolve. You download, dissolve is that technique which is called as Vipassana, right? Objective of this life, in case if you're listening to this very carefully, is to pick one path, not both. I had a different path which has been decided by my guru, so I have to take both paths. Maybe I think it's due to teaching because I had to experience both. Okay? Right? So this is absolutely beautiful. किसी को heart attack की feeling होती है, धड़ 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 होता है. So I met a film director. He had that feeling. So over a period of 10 days, his feeling was almost 1 meter wide. He felt कि वो body के बाहर जा रहा है. Gradually, through patience, he brought it down to the heart center and started working on that. That's Vipassana. It's actually quite fun. Once you start doing it, it becomes quite fun. Right? Sudarshan Kriya, I don't feel that. It just flows out of your body. And some people say, मैं बीमार पड़ गया Sudarshan Kriya के बाद. That's not correct because the body is just kind of releasing that part of energy. This is where I end. You can go now. Thank you.
Okay, I have never been in a quieter session after the session has been done. So I think everybody is in a contemplation, introspection, reflection mode right now. Somebody might be thinking, what did we just witness? But I think we all have food for thought. We definitely have, some of us might have planned, let's try this. A lot of us must be curious. Being designers, we are curious beings by nature. I'm sure we are curious to, I don't like to use the word experiment lightly because it has too many connotations these days. So, but at least curious to try and discover. Thank you so much, Vijay. Niral, I would invite Niral to give the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Sambit. Thank you, Mr. Vijay. It was absolutely amazing, rightly said. You are like Gandalf and we were like Frodo and Samwise throughout the session, as in how you were saying. So your session was absolutely eye-opener and, of course, eye-ticker with all your wisdom and wit. You tackled complex topics like human biases and their impact on nature as well as design with humor and clarity, leaving us all buzzing with questions and new perspective, absolutely. Who knew our memories, impressions, and even beliefs and patterns could play such a sneaky role in everything that we do in our day-to-day lives? Your call to action to reduce their negative effects is something that we will definitely heed. Thanks for reminding us that great designs considers not just aesthetics, but also fascinating quirks of our human mind. Thank you once again from this intrigued and now slightly biased design audience. Huge round of applause for Mr. Vijay.
Thank you very much, everyone. The next session is going to start in 15 minutes, 3:15, right? We have some time. Anybody has some questions for Vijay? Anyone? Yeah, we have one question, please. Yes.
Okay, before you ask, most of us sometimes refrain to ask because I can completely understand with that mindset, is that factor of food, threat, and reproduction, right? So questions are normally not asked due to which factor? Is it food, is it threat, or is it reproduction? It's effectively reproduction because there's a feeling what in case if I ask a question which make me feel like a loser in the audience. Okay? Yeah, please ask. So don't feel like that. Huh? Every question is welcome. It's an osmosis. My thought process emits an aura. I'm a radio. जो भी अंदर मैंने song store किया है, मैं जब button दबाऊंगा वो play होगा. But since I have an antenna as well, I hear other sounds as well. Right? So it's a mutual exchange independent. That's why the word of Sangat has come in. The kind of people that you select in your life, right, is basically unknowingly modifies the way you think. Right? And believe me, those who walk on this path suddenly find उनके friends के group change हो जाते हैं and they feel quite disturbed. कि the conversations which they enjoyed, almost like, for last 5 years, they are no longer enjoying that conversation. There is change happening inside them. This is basically, there is a third, I would say, एक desire जाग रहा है कि life यहाँ तक नहीं है. There is something more to it. You were asking something. Louder. Uh, it's a slightly difficult one. I need a different slide. Yes, answer is yes, right? Brain, see, there are three parts. There is one called as center of life. So your navel center is the center of life. So if you are, let's say, if you have grown up on a ground floor, आपको suddenly कोई 30th floor पे चढ़ा देगा balcony पे, and then they ask you to look down. I mean, where does the sensation happens? Is it here, here, or here? It's somewhere here, right? That is the center of life. So most of us, our center of life is not developed properly, and the center of life is why is it called? Because that is how you understood life. Because यहाँ से umbilical cord connect होता था, and when the umbilical cord is severed, you suddenly find your server down. You start crying. This is the main reason why kids cry when the umbilical cord, because the relation between that base center is severed. Now this is center of life. This is center of feelings. It's not heart as a pumping organ. In fact, liver is the organ which senses the feelings. वो आपने सुना होगा ना, उसका जिगरा बहुत तगड़ा है, right? वो हिम्मत वाला है. I used to wonder. I thought jigra means, heart, but it's not jigra. Jigra is kaleji, which is called liver, right? So that's your organ of feelings actually. Then above that is called as your center of intellect, which is this. So long years ago, 3 sounds were found out. First sound was I'll say the यहाँ आपके vibration आएगा. Then there is उससे यहाँ से vibration आता है, and यहाँ. If you combine these 3 sounds, it become aum. So it was meant कि for us, all these 3 centers were important. So center of life, courage is important, feelings, you need to have compassion, and intellect is all important, right? So it's not just brain, one organ. Effectively, all 3 all combined together. It just so happened we have put ourselves too much in a comfort zone. We don't have those things happening anywhere. ना कि अचानक spider आ गया, या आप सो रहे थे तो पानी गिर गया, right? That's why our naval center is not developed. For people particularly who went into adventure sports, जो शरारती थे, थोड़े building से कूद गए, झूले से कूद गए, आप notice करना, they normally tackle very tough jobs in life because their naval center is developed. Not for people like me. I hope I answered.
I think we can take a couple of more questions. Anyone? Ask. I don't think us faculty members usually talk about these subjects because we have the scare of coming across as a loser. Right? So a sense of threat happens. But we have somebody who has no such compulsion. They don't consider themselves as a loser because they can answer anything. So please ask.
Yeah, I think one of the things of meditation is somehow you feel like अब फर्क नहीं पड़ता कौन क्या बोलता है आपके बारे में. So it's a beautiful state to be.
नहीं, so I have a question there.
Yeah, please.
If I have this thing, मतलब उसका हर we live in a world of dualities.
Yeah.
And when you talk of equilibrium, there has to be 2 sides to be equating something.
Yeah.
So if मुझे फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, तो उसके 2 तरीके हो सकते हैं. या तो फर्क पड़.
I'm one of the first possibly employees in Reliance who has a mat और मैं दोपहर को 2:30-3 बजे उसको बिछा के अपने कैबिन में सो जाता हूँ 20 minutes के लिए. Irrespective of that feeling, मेरा boss आए ना आए, what people think. So in one of these episodes, 2 of my colleagues have started sitting in my room, my cabin. They were bitching. I didn't hear that. I had my earplugs plugged on. Guruji was talking and I was ready. Then they suddenly realized some head appearing behind the table. They had a oh moment. Oh God, he heard all. So I told them very clearly, even in case I would have heard all, it doesn't matter to me because there's something called as, sir, to your answer, is a lot of compassion. So suppose you are a mother and one day your kid comes up and he says, Mom, I hate you for what you did to me. Does the kid really mean that, or will the mom really take that to heart? So I'm gradually trying to reach a spot where anybody who comes and gives me this kind of a feeling, I still see that person. Immediately मैंने brain में एक incident डाला हुआ है in which I start seeing that person as a 3-year-old child of mine who's cribbing about कि पापा तो ऐसा करते हैं, मम्मा ऐसे करती है. And suddenly the level of hormones goes down. It's no longer a vengeance. But why this happens? Because the state in which I enter into every morning in 1.5 hours of Kriya, it gives me so much of energy that it's like somebody slaps you, you just smile at it. Teko theek laga kya? You are in that state. And the day you start doing, I don't have to explain, it happens automatically. right? You have that आपका speech rate slow हो जाता है, आपका eating slow हो जाता है, right? And there is a beautiful connected factor. How many of you heard this line called उसने अपनी आखिरी सांस ली? Have you heard that? So one of the Vichitra theories says that there is a number of count of breaths you have been given in this life, right? Now, in the state of those 5 emotions, which is the Raudra, Furious and XYZ, your breathing rate increases a lot. So that means per minute you are consuming more number of breaths, right? But if you are in a right hand side quadrant, which is those emotions of joy, Shant Bhav, आपका breathing rate बहुत slow हो जाता है. That means my quota, the fuel quota, which I would possibly consume. Guruji. So the fuel quota I have, which was meant to last for let's say 10 kilometers or let's 70 kilometers, I'm just narrating 70 years of my life, will now last to 90. So there is something called as a concept called as a langhanam. So there are 7 types of langhanam, which is slow speaking, slow breathing, slow eating, slow walking. This is called as langhanam. So that's all taught in Art of Living. Whenever you have time, do explore this. And बहुत beautiful होता है. It's like आपको लगता है आप हल्का सा in YouTube you have this 1x 2x speed. So आप 0.5x में operate कर रहे होते हो at least, which is its own part. So it's good to sometimes not have reactions to everything. कि उधर आग लग गया है, उधर इसने ये बोल दिया है. So I have kept in my room ना deep breathe. So कोई भी मुझे आके कोई complain करता है मेरे colleague का, so I said just stand here. मैंने रूम में कुछ sweets रखे हुए हैं, I give them water and I said just 1-2 deep breath लो. आप बताओ क्या प्रॉब्लम है, ठीक है. फिर सेकंड प्रॉब्लम है आपके पास आया मीन्स उसका सॉल्यूशन होगा तभी आपके पास प्रॉब्लम आया है. यू गेट दैट राइट. ऐसा तो किसी ने बोला नहीं ना वो दैट 8 मर्चेंट्स हु गॉट अबडक्टेड हु आर गिवन डेथ पेनल्टी इन कतार, विजय प्लीज उनको छुड़ा के लेकर आओ. वो मेरे पास नहीं आया प्रॉब्लम, समबडी टोल्ड मी कि मेरा यूआई नहीं पहुंचा है टाइम पे. राइट, दैट इज समथिंग विच आई कैन सॉल्व. यू गेट दैट right? So this is the slowness overall which you will get. And why the slowness? Because you have cleaned your garbage. Matlab, you don't have that pressure cooker burning up inside. Na? You have less of the left hand side data. It is also required. I'm not saying it's not required. There are days you require the Raudra Roop. But that's the Mamta wala Raudra Roop. You don't need to really feel it. It's like, when kid unnecessarily burnt out the sari of mother and ma is planning, vengeance lega main bacche se. उसको 7 जन्म तक याद रहेगा. Ma doesn't do that. Neither father will do that. Agreed? It's only outside. So if you see most of this iconography in Indian mythology is that only, which is the Kali Ma Swaroop. वो हमारी माँ भी आती है, कभी काली माँ बनती है ना, आप चंडी बन गए हो. Right? Does it really mean that? कि भस्म कर दूंगी तेरे को मैं. Right? No. Sir, I hope I partly answered your.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, increase the energy and then allow the delay to happen for any processing which is happening in your decision making. That's Langhanam.
I think some of our students will relate to that, and my colleagues definitely, when on a day-to-day basis people come up, sir, क्या करें? Then a colleague comes in, ये क्यों कर रहा है? I think हमने कभी ना कभी बोला ये, sit down, breathe. So thank you so much.
And last part, I'll just connect to his part as
okay,
well,
yeah, please.
the one in the back. So you know that we are 68% to 70% water. You know which planet affects the water? It's a satellite technique. Moon, right? You know high tide, low tide, right? So there's a survey which was conducted which says the maximum entries into asylums happen on full moon day. Because the body was totally affected. That's why the word lunar and lunatic. You see some simile? Now, every moon cycle changes 2.5 days. So if you are absolutely upset with some issue, बहुत गुस्सा आ रहा है, for a loved one or for an unknown one, allow it 2.5 days to settle. Timer लगा लो. I know it's very difficult because we are impulsive. अभी जाके बताऊंगा, अभी जाके मजा चुकाऊंगा, right? And that is what is leading to most of this, issues between people to people, right? Though full of anger is creating another new baby out of anger. Right? It can't happen. So allow it for 2.5 days. Then 2.5 days later, you suddenly feel नहीं तो छोड़ देते हैं. It's not that Sivaro email नहीं भेजती हूँ या नहीं भेजता, right? So that's one of the dictats in my team, and I'm very proud to say that every problem which is narrated by any business one, I tell them they are not meditating. You are the one who are meditating. Feel yourself lucky, right? Try and help them. try and bring a smile to their face. So that's one of the words which I've given to everybody in my team. There is no politics happening. We'll use email as one of the last resort. Sometimes we do use like documentation and diplomacy. I'm also teaching them a lot on, inspired from S. Jaishankar, the diplomacy of corporate governance and survival, right? It's not that easy because to put a mat for 20 minutes in Reliance office and do Yog Nidra, it's I think Padma Shri milna chahiye, but it's a different thing. Right, okay. Sir, I'll end. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks so much, Vijay. It was really lovely. Once more. Okay. We will be starting in a few minutes. We have a lovely audience here. New chairs are coming in. So the people who are okay with sitting on the floor, please make yourselves home. Others can take the chairs. Namaste. Welcome back, and very warm welcome to our special guest today, Professor Uday Kumar. Please, a big round of applause. To begin with, I must say it is so good to see an audience which is spilling over the seats. Thank you so much for coming in such huge numbers. Let's start without any further ado. Today we have with us Professor Dr. D. Uday Kumar. He is the Associate Professor and Head of Department in Design of IIT Guwahati. He is among those very few designers whose work undeniably touches every single citizen of this country and is recognized the world over. Of course, the design of his universal symbol for the Indian rupee. He has completed his PhD in design from IDC IIT Bombay. He has a master's degree in visual communication and a bachelor's degree in architecture. He has worked as a senior designer and then as a design head in the monthly magazine Intelligent Computing, CHIP. His areas of interest include visual communication, architecture, design research with special focus on Tamil typography. A sports enthusiast and a nature lover, Professor Uday strongly believes in himself and certain fundamental principles of righteousness, equality, love, trust, cleanliness, and discipline. That's a very interesting mix of principles. I would now request Professor Kumar to please come to the front, and I request Dr. Sharmila Sinha to felicitate our esteemed guest. Thank you so much, Dr. Sinha. Uday sir, the stage is all yours.
Next slide, right? Okay. A very good afternoon to one and all. I'm thankful to Karnavati University, President, Provost, Deans of institutions, Head of the departments, faculty members and staff, So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be here at the Ahmedabad Design Week 5.0. And I'm particularly thankful to the student coordinators and volunteers, especially Mansi Jindal. She's been accompanying me from the day one for all my requirements. Thank you so much. And also the other volunteers. There were 2 people who picked me up from the airport. I'm sorry I forgot their names, but I'm really thankful to them. And also there were a couple of students at the hotel receiving us and showing their warm hospitality. I was really impressed, and thank you so much. And maybe you can give a big round of applause for the students for making this very successful event. So with this, so let me begin my presentation. So I do not know whether you know the background of how it all started. So just to give you a glimpse of how it started. So this design of Indian rupee symbol was a competition floated by Government of India and Reserve Bank of India in 2009. At that time, I was doing my PhD at Industrial Design Center, IIT Bombay. I was almost nearing completion, so I was writing my thesis and waiting for my defense to happen. So like any enthusiastic designer, I took part in the competition, and then for a very long time, we did not get to know about it. So the competition was announced in March, or around February, March 2009. So the deadline was in June, July, around that. And for a very long time, we did not hear from them. And suddenly in December 2009, I received a letter from the government that stating that I was being chosen as one of the 5 finalists for the rupee symbol design. And we were asked to come over to Delhi in the Reserve Bank of India headquarters. And then we made a presentation. So we were asked to make a 10-minute presentation. So that's when I also got to meet all the other finalists, 5 finalists who were also there in Delhi, December 5th to be precise, so the date when I made my presentation there. I could not see the others' presentation, though we shared our works, because it was a closed presentation, and there was a 7-member jury. So there were 2 from Reserve Bank of India, 1 was the Deputy Governor of RBI, and then 2 from Finance Ministry, and 3 from a reputed design institute. Professor Anil Sinha from NID was also there. They were the jury who evaluated our designs. And so at that time also, at the end of the, like I said, it was closed presentations. I could not get to see others' work. At the end of the presentation, so we all were called together and there were discussions. So we asked them when we'll get to know the results and everything. And this is what they said that time. So they said that they are only a recommending committee, so they will kind of rank all our 5 works in 1 to 5, and this ranking will be sent to the cabinet ministers. So the cabinet ministers will will take a vote. So so even the 5th rank participant can also come at the first. Yeah, so they can select anybody from the 5, but the committee only recommends the 5 in the order of the rankings. The cabinet ministers will make a choice, and then it will go to the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister. Then Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister. So they will choose the final design. Even they also have the choice to kind of make. So in spite of all the recommendations that goes. And so finally, my design was chosen. And this is the same presentation that I've been making for the past, say, 14 years, since 2010. So it was supposed to be. I know it's been recorded and it's gone live on YouTube, but I'm sorry if some of you have already seen the presentation. It's going to be a repetition, but yeah, so nevertheless. So I don't have any other presentation to kind of showcase the design and explain how I went about designing it. So yeah, so this is the presentation. And also, like I said, they did not announce the result very quickly. So July 15th, 2010 is when the then broadcasting minister, Ms. Ambika Soni, announced this live on the television that my symbol was being chosen. I also did not know. So again, I was in IIT Bombay at that time. There were a lot of press coverage. They all came to my hostel and they were just telling me and informing me that your design has been chosen. So that's how I got to know. And then rest, again, it's everywhere it was there. Yeah. So let me go ahead and so the presentation. As you know, this is the rupee symbol, so which is now in implementation. So during the competitions, there was a lot of a brief. Yeah, there were certain guidelines to be followed. If you have really closely observed the presentation since yesterday, so many of them kind of really pointed this, that you need to kind of understand the brief, client's brief as much as possible. Even Ankur, I think in today's presentation, he also kind of mentioned. I do not know whether you got to attend the presentations. In fact, all the speakers kind of constantly keep on repeatedly telling that whenever the client gives you a problem statement, you need to read through it and understand it as much as possible. So in the competition, so one of the guidelines was that the Indian rupee symbol should reflect our Indian culture, tradition, and its ethos. So then I kind of focused on that one particular concept and tried to kind of bring out that element of Indianness into the symbol. So I did a lot of research. I spent about 2 months, more than that, trying to identify a symbol that would really reflect our country. So I'll tell you the challenges over the slides and what challenges they were. So since I was doing my research in Tamil typography, so my PhD was in Tamil typography, so I tried to study various scripts in our country and understand them. So then I felt like script was one of the best visual element that reflected the country. So I choose the Devanagari script. You can see the letter R I choose. And then I also had this Latin script R. So I tried to blend both the R and R together. It's kind of an abbreviation. So why I choose the Devanagari script is primarily because it's one of the unique scripts in the world in terms of its writing system. Unlike any other scripts, if you look at Devanagari scripts, it will be hanging from the top line, whereas all the other scripts will be sit on the base line. So if you are familiar with typography, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So that's one element. So you have this element, which is the top line, which is called the Shiroreka, which is the consistent visual element across all the letter forms in the Devanagari script, which is also a very unique element, which you would not find like that in any other scripts. So these are the things that actually kind of gave me this idea that it kind of reflects our Indianness. For example, if I give you a Latin name and then ask you to kind of make it into a Desi version or a Hindi version, what typically people do is that they'll draw this top line, right? So in capital letters A or B or C, if you put a top line, then it becomes kind of a Desi version of that so Indianized version of this Latin script, right? So that's why I try to that kind of gives you this understanding of what, reinforces the understanding of India into that. So then I also kind of had this Roman letter R, which also expands to rupiah. So rupiah and rupees both kind of denote the currency sign. In a way, it's kind of an abbreviation. And so I looked at the forms of both the letter forms, in Devanagari and the Latin. So I tried to blend them together. And that's the reason being that, so the symbol is not just going to be used by the Indian nationals, it's going to be a universal symbol. So you need to be able to create something which even the people around the world should be able to understand what this stands for. So in order to make it more comprehensible for a larger audience, not just for the Indian nationals, so I try to kind of blend the Devanagari and the Latin scripts together. Yeah, so that way people can understand the idea, the concept behind the symbol. So I did not leave it there. So I did a lot of other things, which conceptually I tried to kind of portray the Indian flag into the symbol. If you look at these 2 lines there. So can you tell me a reason why a flag has to be there as a part of a symbol? Any idea? Yeah. Sorry? It's representing the nation. Definitely, it actually represents the country. But yeah, another thing is that if you look at our country, it's very diverse, right? It's so diverse that it's very hard to kind of really pinpoint one particular symbol and attach it to our country, right? If you look at our country both in many multiple ways, yeah, whether you take a script or language or community or geography or flora or fauna, climate, everything is different. No, if you come to Northeast, the landscape is completely different as compared to what is here, right? And also the way people behave and the culture. So everything is completely different. Yeah. So our country is in the world in itself, right? So it's so diverse, and there are so many things that happens, and it has this rich tradition and diversities. So how do you kind of put them all together? Yeah. So flag is the only thing which kind of binds us all together as one nation, right? So I wanted to create a symbol that is unbiased, which brings all people together, and such that we all feel proud of it, and we feel patriotic about our flag, right? So when you see the flag or when we hear the national anthem, so there is this sensation within us which kind of really makes you feel proud of our own country at the background and everything, right? So I wanted to kind of reinforce that, again, bring that element of Indianness into it. So remember the concept, the guidelines, which says that the symbol should reflect our Indian tradition and culture. So I was constantly trying to find out visual clues, how I can kind of bring that element aspects into the design. So the flag was one thing which represents every Indian. It's to do with the common man. And that's why so I try to kind of portray that, and it also, I try to put it in such a way that it's as if flying high in the symbol itself. Yeah. So to create an unbiased symbol. And so it also represents this arithmetic sign, which is an equal to sign. One, it is also to kind of denote a balanced and a stable economy. So if you look at in 2008 and also in later years, there were a lot of countries' economy where they have, went into crisis. So I want our economy to be very stable and also strong and moving forward and growing. Yeah. So no country's economy should kind of really fall back, right? So that's not good. So I wanted to kind of denote that symbolically through this sign. And not just that, but if you look at the currency, the idea of economy, the idea of commerce starts from this give and take policy, right? If you look at the barter system, that's how it all started, right? The transaction, what that we talk about. So in the earlier days, so we have this barter systems where if I give you a commodity of, say, for example, 1 kilo of rice, maybe you will give you equal value of 2 kilo of maybe a sugar or something else, right? So it's an equal value system that we exchange. Yeah. Then over a time, then we kind of found a common denomination and common currency which you use for transaction of buying any equal commodity. Yeah. So if I give you 1 rupees, you will give me 1 rupees worth of chocolate or biscuit or whatever it is. Yeah. So this equal to is kind of denotes this idea of what the commerce is. Yeah. So that's another aspects to it. And so I also studied a lot of other currency signs around the world and understand the history and the concept behind it. So the symbol looks in similarity to rest of the currency signs. So maybe the next slide will show you a better, clear picture. So I've just only put few of the signs, whatever that could be accommodated within the slide, but there are a lot more other currency signs which I've collected and understood what they meant and what they stand for. So here you can kind of very much see that it looks in harmonious with the rest of the currency sign. So in fact, this was one of the criticism later on after I won. There are a few people who said that this design is not original and it was just like a copy. It's kind of an imitation of the rest of the other currency signs, like a pound and a dollar. Then I was happy to kind of know about the criticism because it was meant to be like that. It is not something which is original. Of course, it is original in its meaning, but in terms of visual appearance, it was in similarity to the rest of the sign. The primary reason being that, so I wanted to create a symbol which is associated with currency sign and not as anything else. Yeah. So I'm sure you have learned about semiotics, yeah, semantics, semiotics, syntactics, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So study of visual signs. So in semiotics, you have this certain symbols which represent certain meaning, right? So in that sense, so I wanted to create a visual sign which is not a traffic sign or a corporate identity or a logo or anything, but a currency sign. And for it to be a currency sign, it has to have the same visual grammar as rest of the currency sign. Otherwise, people will kind of get confused with it. So I wanted to kind of create the similarities and ensure that it looks just like other currencies so that immediately when people see that, okay, it's rupees, yeah, so not anything else. So that's why it looks like rest of the currency. So I found the language, the visual grammar is that you will find there is a letter which is cut across by a line, either in a vertical, horizontal, or diagonal manner. Yeah, so that's the grammar that a currency sign actually follows. So across the world, all the currency signs are almost similar. Yeah, so they don't have any deviations. So I don't want to create something which is very radical, which people have to kind of find it difficult to understand and comprehend, but something which is very familiar, which is similar, which is just exists. Yeah, so that's the idea. And I also used the existing visual forms. Yeah, so because it's important that if people are familiar with the forms, it becomes difficult to kind of learn after it's implemented. Yeah. So I'll give you an example here. For example, in a crowded place, if you see a friend, say in a crowded railway station or an airport or any other public places, yeah. So when you see somebody whom you are familiar with, your friend or a relative or anybody, you will try to say hi, hello, and make a conversation, right? That's because you are familiar with that person. But if it is a stranger, I don't think you'll simply go make a conversation unless you are an extroverted person and you want to make a conversation, right? So familiarity kind of helps you to kind of make the communications and make it easy for adaptations, right? So then I kind of thought about it. So having this familiar forms will make it easy for people to adapt when the symbol is implemented. Remember, all of those things happened, I was thinking before even it was accepted and selected. Yeah. So R, many people are familiar, and capital R is also a familiar visual form, so you don't have to learn newly to kind of understand what it is. And it is also helpful in terms of the writing system is concerned. So when you have to kind of write it, because symbols also should be in a written form, yeah? So when you go to the bank, you will write the rupee symbol and the amount, right? Or any other places wherever you have to deal with money. So in that sense, when you have to write, it becomes easy because you already know how to write letter R or capital letter R. So you don't have to do this, make this extra effort to learn the symbol, how to write it, right? So that's why this familiarity and also using the existing symbols to kind of create the design. Simplicity is also was one of my primary criteria. So I did a lot of iterations, so many options, and everything was kind of eliminated, and then I kind of refined and so on and so forth. Though I'm not showing you all my other iterations, but only the final design, I'm sharing it with you. So it has only few elements, so the cognitive load is also very less. It's very easy for people to kind of quickly recognize what the symbol is, and also even in the written form, it's very easy for people to write. Yeah. Again, since my background is from typography, so I kind of looked at it as a type design exercise and looked at it from each and every millimeter point of view in terms of the angle, the degree, the curves, and everything. And this also was a lot of iterations I did. You only get to see the final one. So I was so concerned, and also so this also brings the visual aesthetics to it. So the functionality and visual aesthetics is of equal importance. So many times, since many students are there, so many times students think that, so you need to kind of fulfill the function and then later on add the aesthetics to it and make it more beautiful. And that should not be the case. Yeah? The function itself should ensure that the beauty of the design comes through. Yeah? So you need to kind of integrate it seamlessly instead of just looking at it as a post factor. Yeah? Just you design it and then trying to kind of beautify things and make your design appealing. It's not the way to approach the design. But the function itself, the way in which you work on the design itself should create something which is very beautiful in nature, not like something which you do post the design. So this was, again, it was always in my mind, and consciously I was trying to work on each and every finer detail. So if you look at the lines, the top two lines, you can see it's like slanted on the right side. So I kind of worked on it with typically the ends are called as terminals. I had a rounded terminals, I had a different opposite angle, and I had a vertical terminal, and I had a chamfered terminal. So there were so many options. And then once you change that, then you also have to change the joinery with the curve, where the curve and the angular line joins. Again, that also changes. So it was like a constant changing of things. One, if you change, then you have to. So the permutation and commutation was kind of too much. Yeah. So I try to kind of work on constantly on this and try to arrive at this, finally arrive at this one. So there is a trick in this one, though I would want the students to kind of figure out what is the trick, because typically if you look at calligraphy, the Devanagari script is written in a different form and English is written in a different calligraphic style. Yeah, if you look at the broad nib. Yeah, so I also shot several short videos of how people will write the symbol, because that's what is going to happen when it's implemented, right? So though this video might not play, because I don't think it's embedded, I'm sorry. It's just like a 20 seconds, 10 seconds video. So I shot several of such as smaller videos to find out how people write it. So like I said, so I was also looking at the finer details, at the visual balance, visual aesthetics. I know it is a very tiny symbol, but I spent a lot of time trying to kind of understand it at a very minutest detail. So the length also is precise. And if you look at the dimensions, if you look at the stroke thickness and also the space between them, it is in proportion to the national flag. Yeah? So the national flag, the tricolor flag, there is a proportion in which the width and the length of the flag has to be, and also the strips, how much. So there is a ratio. So it all corresponds to that kind of a ratio. So though you don't see it, but I'm just explaining it. So since you're all designers, hopefully it should be helpful. Yeah, so this is something which I did again before during the when I was participating in the competition. So though there was no brief on this one, so I told the committee that if at all you want to come up with the sign for the paisa, so you don't have to float a competition. It will be logistically another big task for you. So a paisa symbol can be already there, so you can make use of this one. So I kind of anticipated this and suggested them this could be in harmonies with the rupee symbol itself, because you have this dollar and cents, and there are so many denominations which all have their own signs, visual signs, right? So I gave the symbol for even for the paisa and along with this one. But they said that we'll think over it. After that, not much happened, but at least I'm thankful the rupee symbol is there. So, yeah. So the numerals are the typical place where you will find the symbol with. Yeah, so this is with the Indian numerals, and this is with the Arabic numerals. Again, I tried with the different typefaces, different fonts. This is Rotis 51. Rotis is a very beautiful font designed by Otil Escher, a German designer. So I also tried to look at it from the technological point of view, so where it will be in the keyboard and how it will appear, how encoding should be done. Of course, I'm not an expert, so this was just only a preliminary understanding, so based on my basic understanding to say, yeah, so where the Unicode position will be. So this was suggestive. So like I said, so there were several things that went into the design of the symbol. Yeah. There were so many meanings I wanted to kind of embed into the symbol, yeah, which I explained it earlier. Yeah. So why you need this symbol? Yeah. So there are several other countries which also use rupees as their currency. So if you take Indonesia, Mauritius, and so on. So now that we have a symbol, it kind of distinguishes itself from the rest of the other nations which also use the rupee. Yeah, so you also see the denominations which they use. So Indonesia uses RP, but typically we used to write RS, yeah, earlier as an abbreviation of the rupees. So I did not stop there, but I went ahead and I also found a means, various applications where a common man will see in his or her day-to-day life. Yeah, so where all the symbol will look like. So I picked up examples. Again, these were all selected examples. It was not like randomly chosen. So I picked a lot of examples. There are some which is not there. Some I put it in the presentation. So depending on the printing surfaces, technology, and various things. So this was on a tin, on a packaging, how it will look like, and different color combinations. And this was on a dot matrix printer, how it will look like, because still in post offices they use dot matrix printer. So whether the symbol will be legible, readable, or not. So I was trying to focus. And based on this, I went back to my design. If you have looked at the construction drawings earlier, in the earlier slides. So I can try to modify the angles and the thickness and so on and so forth. So applications of these examples, again, so this is in the medicines. There are two informations which is very vital. One is the expiry date and also the price, which we often look at when you buy a medicine. So this is kind of a stamping technique. So when you stamp, the ink actually spreads. Again, at a smaller size, the legibility goes off. Yeah, it becomes a blotched text. So you will not be able to identify what the letter forms is or the text is. So again, based on this, then the spacing and everything was also kind of modified and fine-tuned in a complex background, how it looked like. So I just kind of edited all those images and then put the rupee symbol there, along with the same design, type design that actually is there. Yeah, so again, similarly in postage, where stamping is called the franking technique, so how it look like, and also in keyboards. So this was again my suggestion. So it's in the numeral 6. But the newer keyboards, if you find nowadays, it will be there besides number 4. Along with the dollar sign, you will find the rupee symbol. But this was my suggestion. Again, I did a basic research. So above 6, you have this upper arrow, which is often not used by the general public. Mostly programmers and coders use them, and which is also you can get them by the combination of other keys. Yeah. So I thought, okay, why not replace that and put the numerals numeral 6 there, because all the other special characters most often general public will use. Yeah? So this is the railway ticket. So it's the old and the new ticket. You will find the difference, how it will look like once the symbol is implemented. Again, these are all touch points where a common man will come in touch with the design. So one other thing about itself in the typewriter. So if you do the strike through, you will get the rupee symbol. Yeah. So in that sense, it was compatible even to the older technologies and also future and the current technologies. Yeah. So in that sense, it takes care of every medium that is possible in reproducing the symbol. So these are bank slips. Yeah. So typically we see them. Yeah. The rupee sign. I also looked at in LEDs, so in the digital mediums, how it will kind of look at and whether the legibility will still hold or the shape and form. So some examples. And also in smaller sizes, looking at stamps as a good example for the size comparison. And so this is in the checkbooks. So typically RS it will be written, RS and RU will be written. I kind of replaced it with the symbol. This is the most common place where you will find the rupee symbol, which is the price tag. So when you go purchase some materials, you will often find this price tag. So you can see how harmonious it is with the other currency signs, with the dollar and the pound. Yeah. A symbol should signify a meaningful thought. Meaning to a symbol is like soul to a body. Without soul, the body is nothing. Without deeper, sensible, and thought-provoking meaning, the symbol is needless. This symbol truly symbolizes our country, our tradition, our nation's economy, and its currency. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And so, thank you. The website does not work, so you don't have to search for that. So, but yeah, before I conclude, I would like to thank all my school teachers. From Lashat Lane Residential Junior College. So I studied in a boarding school right from my first standard till my 12th standard. So it's a boarding school in Chennai. I'm very much thankful to all my school teachers and all the staff who really made me the person that I'm standing today. And I'm also thankful to all my professors from School of Architecture and Planning who really made me understand what a space is. They taught me architecture design and a lot more, and creativity and so on and so forth. And I'm also thankful to all my professors and staff from Industrial Design Center, IIT Bombay. They really opened up a whole new world of what design is. And I understood how design works and how it functions. And I got to know about typography, type design, and many things. So I'm very much thankful to all my teachers who have been very much instrumental. I'm thankful to them for all my life, for what they did to me. And also I'm thankful to my parents, my friends, my mother and my father. They never questioned me in whatever that I did, and they gave me the freedom to choose what I wanted to do. And I'm really thankful to them and my parents and my friends and my brothers and sisters. So thank you so much, and thanks for patiently listening to me.
Questions? I think it was quite succinct and lucid, but yeah, Karam.
Sir, well, thanks for detail of rupee symbols. But
Thank you.
I want to know why should two clips from Unicode Conservatorium, why are putting the two clips?
Okay.
Rupee symbol, Unicode value is 2088 and other values. So what is the meaning of two glyphs for a one rupee symbol?
So I was looking at this as an option, either this or that. Of course, like I said, I'm not an expert in this Unicode and the keyboard encoding. Just my basic understanding. I was just suggesting that probably if not in the Unicode, this position, maybe this could be by the government of India's how they kind of defined the keyboard position. Yeah.
Okay.
That's basic understanding. So
Actually, I am around about 35 years working in the typography, type design, but मेरे को ये समझ में नहीं आया आज तक कि जितना भी कंट्रीज का सिंबल्स है सबको एक ग्लिप्स दिया है, एक वैल्यू दी गई है, लेकिन इंडियन रुपीज सिंबल को दो वैल्यू दी गई है. मैंने यूनिकोड कंसर्वेटोरियम को भी लिखा कि व्हाट इज द रीजन, बट आई थिंक इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ आवर our the rupee symbol. So these are using in the publication, web publication and print publication, and using the binary format. So I think published for the two house, in two house, two glyphs, two Unicode values, A048 or 28, A2, sorry, I don't know about the different, but A other values. I think this is a very important for the Indian economy, and thanks, Mr. Dekmar.
Thank you. Thank you, Rohilaji.
Any other questions, please? We have time. Students, faculty members, anyone?
It was the same situation even during the presentation. So what happened is that, like I said, this was a 10-minute presentation. And so we finalists were called one by one to make a presentation. So everybody took more than half an hour or 1 hour, and they came back. So I was the only guy went and came back in 15 minutes. So I was just so worried that I don't know, either they understood or they did not. They did not ask me any questions, just only one question at the end, because I think at the end I made one more slide, I think. Oh no, so, okay, that slide is not there. Professor Anil Sinha asked me the only question. Nobody else asked me any questions. So he asked, I put the symbol in color. Yeah, I think you saw one slide? Yeah, slide. So he asked me, where do you see a symbol in a color form? No? I did not have an answer. I said, if you want it to be in color, then this is the option that I'm trying to provide. Yeah. But usually it's in monocolor. You will never find the symbol in multicolors. Yeah. So that was the only question. And after that, I came out. Yeah. So the rest of them spent like really 45 minutes, 1 hour, and they had a lot of documents and they came. So I was a little worried. The same here, I don't know, either you should have understood us or it should be other way around. Yeah. Thank you. I think this one, sir, is a question there.
Sir, the font, the character design,
yes,
would be changing with different fonts.
Yes.
So how did you plan or foresee how the character design will adapt to the different fonts and all of that?
Yeah, so I try to keep it as neutral as possible and as basic as possible so that it gives rooms for the type designer to kind of bring their own characteristics into this form. Yeah, say for example letter A or letter B or C. So they have a very basic skeletal structure. On top of it, any type designer would want to bring in their own visual characteristics to the type. So I created the skeletal structure in such a simplified manner so that it helps any designers to come up with their own versions of the symbol for their own typefaces according to their own design. Yeah. So I did not add any decorative elements or anything so that it becomes very difficult for anybody who is going to redesign or design for their own place, because I know that this is going to be a typeface or going to be part of a typeface, right? So then you should know how you need to design for it. So
I had a question. Can you explain the construction part of the symbol?
Yeah, so constructions, first thing was I wanted to keep the proportion of the flag, especially the top two lines. Yeah, that is something which I was, so that was a little bit of a botheration for me because it was also too close, yeah, and too high, and it becomes top heavy and the bottom there's a lot more negative space in the bottom. So I tried to keep on playing, but since I had this concept of Indian flag, I didn't want to deviate from the flag. So then that becomes my constraint, and I tried to kind of improvise on the constraint and then adjust my curves such that the curve and the joint, how much up and down has to be there. So I don't have too much of a curve, so that the top also has like a lot of more negative space and not a shorter bottom part. So these were aspects which I was constantly thinking while I was designing. Yeah. So the flag that was all, top part is all set, and the bottom is what I kind of try to improve so that I can visually balance it with the top portion and also the width of the symbol. Yeah. So it was a lot of iterations I had to go through, and it is solely based on my own visual aesthetics and my visual understanding. What I found okay, this is interesting, this is visually appealing, and so on. Then I froze it, yeah. So, and also I took a lot of feedback. I took feedback from people and asked them what they found and whether it's interesting. So everybody was, they found it quite appealing, so they did not have any issues. So if they had given any feedback, then accordingly I would have further modified and iterated on it. Yeah, welcome.
Hi, Uday, this side.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Vijay.
Yeah.
Uday, we are proud of you, that's one factor.
Thank you.
And I think we rarely had in the country celebrity designers. And I think you gave us that space that there is a possibility of someone like you know, whether I or, you know, somebody like us can be here. So the question is, there's two parts of the story. One part is actually reaching the point of creation of this baby that you have done, which is a rupee symbol. The other part was the adoption part, how the baby came about in the society, what were the institutions it went to. I would really love to know what were your stories post the decision when government announced they'll take up this decision. How did they involve you? What was the journey like working with the government machinery, Indian Railways? I don't know, how does it really happen? It's not like you gave one file, was it like, and they asked you to go back and sleep, take the money? Or was it like you be part of this committee, handhold us? What is that somebody has to do? There are a lot of learnings. If just in 1 minute or 2 minutes you'd like to speak about that.
Actually, I'm on recording, so I just don't know whether I have to say, but yeah. So whatever I gave the design is just the same. All the implementation is based on what the initial drawing was, whatever the construction drawing, whatever I submitted during the competition, the same design has been implemented. There's no iterations, no changes after that. So most of the communications was through speed post, so I was not there anywhere. So all the prize money also, they just send me through speed post, and I'm just left like that. So I have to surrender all my copyright and everything to the government of India. Then only they, in fact, released the prize money, which I donated to an organization in Hyderabad. It's called Prajwala. So it works for anti-trafficking of women and children. So I went there and gave them, and so Sunita Krishnan is the person who really runs the organization. So that's the only connection. After that, I'm nowhere part of any further discussions with the government or anyone else. Yeah. So even the copyright, everything is the government of India. So I can only claim, I've been telling this also, so I can only claim that I designed the rupee symbol, and that's it. So nothing more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sir, for the benefits of the students,
Yes.
could you please highlight what a lot of amount of hard work you have put so that it becomes they aspire like you. In 15 minutes we see so what a great wonder we are proud of. But we must also know the students, especially the hard work, how you devoted yourself so that whenever they take any job, they could keep in mind and aspire to achieve.
Yeah.
Please highlight that one.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with this. Yeah, so because I know this is of a national importance. No, so not necessarily that any competition I give the fullest, my best of my abilities. Yeah, so I did a lot of research. I looked at coinages. I looked at Kanishka period. I looked at symbols. I looked at Indus Valley civilization seals. Though these are all not there in the slides, but there were a lot of study behind it. I did a lot of research, and like I said, my PhD also was helpful in the process. Yeah, so I got to understand various scripts. In fact, once I went to Tamil Nadu, the then Chief Minister, Mr. Karnavati, was there, so I had an appointment with him, and I went to his house, residence, and showed the work. So, of course, they are DMK party. They know how their reactions to Hindi. Yeah. So he asked me, when I explained it's in Devanagari and it's in English, he said, why not in Tamil? Because he's the Chief Minister, and it's very hard to kind of reply why it is not in Tamil, I being a Tamilian. So it was like, but you as a designer, you need to know the context and importance, yeah, why you're designing the symbol and whom it is for, yeah. So understanding that, so I wanted to ensure that the symbol is for everybody, yeah, so entire nation. So that's why I told the flag, idea of flag and in integrating various things, yeah. So likewise, I did study so many things and spent a lot of research, and equally, I also designed, yeah. I did a lot of iterations, I showed with friends. So sometimes we feel like mera design or koi chori karega, so somebody will copy it. But I did not have that kind of a problem, yeah. So I often said, I said earlier also to many of the places where I visit, so it's good if people copy my design, I'll be happy because they feel some merit in your design and they copy it. If they copy it, I'm better than them, I can do 10 more designs. And if they copy the 10 designs, I'll do 100 designs. If they copy 100 designs, I'll do 1,000 designs because I know what I am. So I'm not so worried if they copy my design. So I just discuss and get a good feedback. So that's a process, no? So ultimately, it's going to be the general public is the one who's going to use the design, right? I mean, they'll be using it and seeing it every day. And getting the feedback is very important. So I'm not so worried about the copyright and all those things. So I discuss with them, and they give me feedback, and I integrate that feedback. If I find it work, that's very important and should be implemented and so on. So it's a kind of a process, yeah? So I keep on working on it and I iterate it. Like I said, I had hundreds of designs, thumbnail sketches though, and then I shortlisted few of them, like 25, and then shortlisted 10, and then 4, and then further refined these 4, like I said, all these joineries, like angular one, right, left, center, which angle, what angle, and then what joineries and thickness. So there are a lot of things. So I kept on refining it until I found it, okay, this is pleasing to me. So finally, I have to freeze it based on my own visual judgment and be convinced that this should be the best design that is possible to design. And also, not just from just the design iterations, I also conceptually had different ideas. Yeah, this I've not discussed in many places. Very few places I discussed. So the initial concept was not this one. Yeah, so the initial concept was based on the Indus Valley civilization. So the initial idea was to have Indian rivers. Yeah, I had the symbol. So the overall form was the same, but if you look at these two horizontal lines, it had a wavy line. It actually represents water, yeah, river. Because any civilization starts with the riverbed, yeah, because water becomes essential for life. So this currency sign also was that kind of a conceptual idea I had. And also, I also had several other conceptual ideas, which I eliminated and found which would be the best. The reason I eliminated the idea of river, though it was a little bit stronger, than what I'm kind of saying. So I had a lot of other things also connected to it. So I found that writing a curve, two curves, is going to be difficult for a person than writing a straight line. So these are the finer things which I kind of spent and understood logically, experienced myself, if you remember the video, though I did not play the video, yeah, so these are things that gives you these insights, yeah, what should be the right thing to do and will be rightly accepted by the people. And also you're looking at somebody who is illiterate, literate, and different strata of population, right? It's just going to be like so many users are going to use it. So from their perspective, should be the right design? So having a curve, will it make a difference? Yeah? It's just going to be a sine curve, yeah, just like this. And whether horizontal line, what is going to make a difference? So these are decisions which I took. Then I went with a simple straight line, then the curve. So then I dropped the whole idea of this Indus Valley civilization, river and everything, all those things just simply threw off. Yeah? Just restricted to simple design, such that usability is what comes into, is important. Yeah. So likewise, there were so many things, yeah, which I spent and worked on it. Yeah. 2 months, because the duration for the competition was like I said, March to June or July. That was the deadline. So throughout that, since the beginning, I was been working on it. Yeah, though not constantly 24 hours, because I was also doing my PhD, like I already told you. So I was working on my thesis as well. So whenever there was a time possible, I was spending my hours in the evening trying to research, go to libraries, read books, study, and though. So there were hours, though I don't have count, but nearly 2 months I was trying to do a background research for designing the symbol. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, I think this.
Sir, in terms of standardization and variations, what have you found in the way the symbol is used by corporations and by different government agencies and wherever? Are they adhering to your construction drawing, or are there variations and different standards that they use?
But there are a lot of variations. So it's not just the one which I did, but mostly on the coins and the rupee notes, on the currency notes. So they follow the same proportions which I have done. It's just the same. And with a little bit of a decoration with respect to the currency sign, they have the flowery details and all. But the proportions and everything is just the same. But there are other places which people feel free to kind of make their own versions of it with slight variations in terms of proportions or thickness and details, yeah, which you will find everywhere. Yeah. But most of the government things, especially in the coins and the currency notes, there's the same proportions that is there. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So, hello. So my question was like when designing a symbol that is for the Indian rupee. So these things have to stand the test of time like 50 years or maybe even a century because these things can't be changed so frequently. So like keeping like the boundlessness, the timelessness of the design, was that in your mind the whole time or you just like made it for right now and then we look into the future?
So I was mostly focused to kind of bring out the Indianness. Yeah, that was my primary target. Whatever the problem statement was, I wanted to fulfill that objective. So once I want to create a meaningful design. So that was my primary goal. Timelessness is sometimes not depends on you. It depends on the people, how they accept it and how they kind of carry forward and continue to use it over a period of time. Yeah, so the simplicity is one ways you can kind of create this timelessness. So I also had that objective to kind of make it as simple as possible so that it will be used for a very longer period of time. Though that was not specifically was in my mind that, okay, 100 years it is going to be there, yeah. But though your question is valid, but you'll never know. So what happens tomorrow if all the Southeast Asian countries come together and have one common sign, currency sign? It is also possible, right? Just like a euro. Earlier, each country had their own sign, but they all become together and as a euro sign, there can be one symbol for that. But maybe similarly, all the Asian countries will come together and have a symbol. Then this symbol will not be there, right? So anything is possible, but that was not in my mind, but I wanted to create something which is very meaningful, which is Indian in nature, at the same time has an universal appeal and so on. So those were my major focus.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you and all the best. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I would request Dr. Dhananjay to kindly deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, sir, for honoring us with your presence and then also delivering this very, very wonderful presentation. I've known sir for almost 14 years now, although probably we have not had active conversations in the past, but it was during my MDes days that the typography day phenomena had become a big thing, had started, so 2010, 2011. And this is the same time that sir was completing his PhD, and then a lot of activity in the typography fraternity was taking place. And sir is among the very few scholars, academicians in India who have had this opportunity and have delivered on this opportunity of contributing to the scene of Indic type in big ways. And I'll formally get to the vote of thanks now. There are a couple of things that I've noted, and so I'll make use of my notes. So thank you again, sir, for your sharing with us your journey of conceptualizing this font, the process that you could present, and then gave us a detailed insight of all of us could really did gain valuably from the different perspectives that you shared towards this font design activity, that the the symbol design activity that you could contribute to. So you talked about the different cultural nuances that you took into consideration, the semiotics, aspect of semiotics, the importance of ensuring that the symbol fits well in the family of other fonts. You talked about the geometrical aspects, nuances. You talked about the cognitive aspects that went into the decisions that you took. And finally, to offer the icing on top of the cake, you had all these use cases that you very thoroughly explored and then documented in your submission. So thank you, sir, again for being here, for sharing your thoughts, your ideas, and the process for bringing about the Indian rupee symbol. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for making this session a resounding success. Thank you once more to our guests on behalf of Karnavati University, United World Institute of Design and Innovation. Thank you so much. I hope you guys all come tomorrow. We have one more day of ADW 5.0, equally great sessions happening tomorrow as well. See you tomorrow. Thank you so much.